Good evening. Good evening. Happy Tuesday, as I always say, my favorite day of the week because I get to share my evening with you, at least the next hour or so. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another version of Love Shouldn't Hurt, our weekly show where we provide needed information and useful guests who can give us different opinions and feelings about our topics. So before we do so, I want to do as we always do, remind you folks that we are here for a reason and for a purpose. If you or someone you know is dealing with domestic violence, be sure to reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can also reach all of us on all of our social media platforms, our website at loveshouldnothurt.com, and anywhere you see me in the street, just holler, scream, yell. I'll be right there. So tonight, I have three amazing, and as I always say, Fierra Latinas, who have some credentials. I put that out there too because I love highlighting that our Latinas are doing such amazing things in our community. Before we get into those amazing guests, let's recap where we were the last time we were here. Last week, I had the pleasure of having Daniela Roman with me. She is a part of the Co-Author Network. She came on for our Express Yourself, and she spoke about how domestic violence is being fueled right now by so many people and how a lot of our young folks do not know and are not aware. So we spoke about that. We had a passionate conversation about just helping people within our community be more aware of domestic violence as well as our youth. So that was the last time we were here. I want to remind folks that the ticket sales for our Love Gala are continuing on, and I urge you, if you plan on attending, purchase your tickets because they are going fast, and I don't need you asking me the day of if you can make it because, listen, fire laws mean I can't have too many people in there. So make sure you get your tickets. Go to El Concilio website, buy your tickets now so that you can be there with us. Tonight, we are talking about a much needed conversation. I know so because during my time of abuse, I was in my workplace and it definitely affected my job. So I thought it was super important for us to have this conversation, especially with women who are working in the field and are doing huge things. So I figured, why not have three amazing women who are boss ladies and who are killing it so we can have such a much needed conversation. Hello, Daniela and Angela. I see you both. Thank you both for being here. Tonight, we're talking about domestic violence in the workplace. So I'm going to do as I normally do when I have more than one guest. I'm going to bring them on one by one and ask them why. They were passionate and they said yes to me for coming on the screen. So the first beautiful lady we're bringing up is La Doctora. She was here a couple of weeks ago and she was talking to us about our relationships with children. But tonight, this boss lady, who is a principal of one of our schools, is joining us tonight. Dr. Sandra Gonzalez.
Hi.
How are you tonight, love?
I'm okay. How are you?
Nena, estoy sudada, but I'm good. This light is like bright on me right now. Me está quemando. I feel like a salchicha. So listen, super important topic, and you play a huge role within our community, being the principal of one of our Latino schools in Philadelphia. What made you so passionate about saying yes tonight?
For me, when I think of my staff, I've been at my location at Pantoja Charter School since 2008, since we opened. I love my staff. And one of the things that I've learned to do was build relationships with my staff. I just want to get to know who they are, besides them being a counselor and a teacher and a director of this and the coordinator of that. For me, it's really important for me to get to know the human being and their life and their, how they're doing. So, when my staff is not okay, I'm not okay. Our school is not okay. You can't give your best if you're not at your best. So this topic definitely hit the heart in many ways. But again, I try to create a safe environment in our school. We all do. And, when someone's not okay, it impacts our students, it impacts the teacher itself and their life and, what they do at work. So I was like, yes, I definitely want to be part of this.
Awesome. Well, thank you for accepting our invite. We had a good time with you the last time we were on. You gave us some great perspective about your relationship with your beautiful daughter. So I appreciate you being here again and joining us for this important combo. So the next woman I'm bringing to the screen, another Fierra Latina who's doing big things within our community. She was known probably best for being beside Maria Quiñones within the city of Philadelphia. But now Miss Thing is running things over at Esperanza. And we are super proud of Ketsi for always doing such phenomenal work. So Ketsi Lozada. Hello, señora.
Hello, good evening.
Espera, arreglo. Señorita, because nobody's a señora to me. We're all young and beautiful.
Claro que sí, I'll take that. Thank you very much.
Hi, Ketsy. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm really excited to be here and to be a part of a really important conversation that at times we don't take advantage of, or that we kind of tend to shy away from because it's such a delicate conversation. So I'm excited to be here with all of you amazing women.
Thank you. Well, you sort of, I guess, already answered the question of why you're here, Bella. So I see our third guest in the background just looking. So, mira, nena, come on and then just answer the question because Jack Ketsy answered it. Thank you for saying yes and being here tonight. Let's bring on our last guest tonight. She is another principal in Philadelphia at Aspira Charter School. Ooh, listen to my words. That's what happens cuando tiene calor. So Nancy Ruiz, thank you for coming tonight.
Good evening, ladies. I am
Good
so
evening.
excited and honored to be here to speak about this taboo topic, domestic violence in the workplace. And the reason I accepted the invitation was because we don't talk about this. We talk about domestic violence in the home, but we do not talk about domestic violence in the workplace. And it's a very important topic.
Yeah.
It happens all over. And I think by us having these open and honest, transparent conversations, we can save lives. At my school, I'm always promoting self-care and looking out for the well-being of my team, my staff. And I've never had the inclination to discuss domestic violence, but after looking at the research and knowing that it's a prevalent topic, I definitely want to continue talking about this at work. Again, thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. And I'm so honored to be around you women. The people watching are probably like, where does she get these people from? She always has people different weeks. So I'll tell you that all of these people I've known from different avenues, different times throughout the years. Ketsy's probably seen me since I was a teenager. Sandra's seen me on the dance floor since we were both really young. Nancy's seen me around. So I want you to know that I'm around quality folks. I don't hang around any bums people. I'm around quality women. But every week we're always trying to figure out, what should we talk about? What should our topic be? What should we get into? We want to make sure that it's topics that are beneficial to the people watching, and that it's things that they could say, oh my God, I didn't think about that. And the funny thing is that I can't take credit for tonight's topic. I have to give it to our executive producer, Ray, who's not with us here tonight. But he brought it up and he said, we've never spoken about domestic violence in the workplace. And as soon as he said it, I was like, yes, because I think back to, you've been at Pantoja, you said, since 2008. So my abuse was in 2002. And during that time, I worked at, it's now One Bright Ray, but back then it was Fairhill Community Charter School. And we were just starting, this accelerated program. We were just beginning the stages. And I was super young, but I was already going through my domestic violence. And my employer, I remember distinctly my boss at the time, if you've read my book or if you've seen my documentary, you hear that I lived in my car for 2 weeks. So I remember a distinct memory of coming to work one of those days, and my back seat was filled with a trash bag. It was filled with all of my clothes. And I had on, of course, a work shirt. Anybody that knows me, bien picua, when I go to work, I'm always very dressed up. So I was dressed up and ready to go, but my attitude was different. I'm going to mute everyone's mic really quickly just because I can hear the feedback. So don't be scared when you see that your mic is getting muted. There you go. That's better. So I remember a distinct moment where that week was one of the weeks that I was living out of my car. And I was at the front desk with our receptionist. A parent was on the phone and wanted to speak. So I picked up the phone to speak to the parent, and I dropped my pen and I bent over to get it. And I had a bruise that was about this big, the size of my face, on my back. But I thought it was covered. I did not realize my boss saw my bruise. So I bent over. And when I got back up, he was standing there and he said, Vega, are you good? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm good. He never told me he saw it. But afterwards, when I got home, I realized he saw my bruise. And that same afternoon, we all walked out together. It's 4:00. We're walking to our cars. And my car was filled with my clothes in my back seat. And he said to me when we're walking, why do you have all your clothes in your back seat? And I'm like, it's laundry day, dude. My machine broke. I have to wash clothes. And he never directly said he knew, but he knew. He can tell. And by looking at the research and the different signs, I sat and I read it and I'm like, of course he knew, because when I look now at all of the signs, my productivity was terrible. My normal bubbly self was very, very low. I was always just really like, ugh. Whenever I would come in, I would fake it, but you could tell. Just not meeting deadlines, just everything about me switched. So when I was looking at the articles that I sent to you ladies, I kept saying, wow, he absolutely knew what was going on. And later on down the line, it was worse. So we'll talk about that throughout the show. But, it does affect the workplace. And I thought it was super important, especially for people who are watching, who are holding authoritative positions. You may think it's not something that you deal with, but absolutely every day, they say it, 1 out of every 20 people who work with you is dealing with domestic violence. So I'm trying to unmute you ladies so that I can bring you on. Sandra, it looks like I can't unmute. You got to unmute yourself, babe. So listen, you guys read some of the articles that I sent. You guys have interesting things. So how about you guys tell me each, what is something you found interesting about what we sent to you? Nancy, you can go first.
Question again?
So what exactly in the articles did you find the most surprising?
The most surprising, two perspectives. New Jersey, which I did not know. I live in New Jersey. I work in Philadelphia. New Jersey has the New Jersey Security and Financial Empowering Act, called NJ SAFE Act, which provides employment protection for victims of domestic and sexual violence. This act allows 20 days of unpaid leave for victims of violence. I didn't even know that there was even laws to help the victims and protect them. And then Pennsylvania states that most of the employees are covered under FMLA, the Family and Medical Leave Act. And they also will support the domestic violence victim with some leave time as well. And then another interesting fact that I found in one of the articles, titled Recognizing Domestic Violence Impact in the Workplace, that they give you a list of signs of domestic violence that are not just the physical signs. And you did mention some of them in your own experience, Christina. Your work production, your productivity goes down, your stress, your time in attendance, violate the policies because you're always either late or you're absent because you have a black eye or some other physical injuries, as well as depression, isolating yourself from your colleagues, from your own team, from your friends, changing your behavior, even your personal appearance. And these are things that us as employers and being in a managerial position need to look for these signs in our employees. And not necessarily everyone is under a domestic violence type of situation. It can be some other type of personal issues and concerns. But it's good to know the signs and also to build those personal work relationships with your team, so that we can talk to you about it and trust you enough to tell you that there is something going on.
Right. So one of the things that was super important to me and super important, I think, for everyone to know is, as an employer, a lot of times we try to build relationships with our employees. I know for myself, it just turned out this way, but every job or placement I've ever been in, I've been super, super close to all of my bosses. I've always had a great rapport with them. I was always able to just have a good relationship and be open and honest with them. And I think that that's something that's important for everyone. Not that you should have, he's your best friend or she's, because there is a very fine line between professionalism and personal. But I think that you should always be able to have that open communication with your boss. My boss, when I worked at Esperanza Academy, she always had an open door policy. No matter if, you and I had a bad day, no matter if I reprimanded you today, my door is still always open, regardless of your anger, if something is happening. And I'm the same way with my current boss. He and I are able to have a discussion where he puts me in my place, but he also has the flexibility of, if you need something from me, even though I told you off earlier today because you weren't doing what I asked, you still can come to me and we still can talk about it. And I think that that's where I was at that time at One Bright Ray or Fair Hill. Him and I had a good open communication, and I was afraid to talk to him. But I know now that had I just accepted that open door, I probably would have had more support at work than I thought that I did. Sandra, I am going to mute you, Nancy. Sandra, I'm going to unmute you so you can tell me what you thought were things that were kind of surprising to you.
One of the articles, Intimate Partner Violence is a Workplace Issue. In that article, they talked about the different types of domestic abuse and violence, partner violence. Physical, emotional, sexual abuse, verbal, economic, cyber violence, and so on. And also they mentioned that abuse doesn't just happen to young people or to women. It also happens to men. And, we should be aware of that, not just looking at one gender, but looking at all genders as well. So that really, is a great reminder to all of us that, men can also, be part of, could be victims as well. Something that stood out is that when someone is sharing with their or when we notice that someone is unfortunately going through domestic abuse or something's not quite right, hopefully you've built the relationships and the trust, as Nancy had mentioned, but also empowering them and believing in them and listening to what they have to say. You don't have to have an answer for everything, but definitely having a lending ear and a lending heart is important. Let them say what they need to say. We definitely might not have the answers. I know that in my human resource department in the past has helped me several times. And I have been, the teacher has trusted me to share this information after I've observed something was a little different. Maybe work productivity, body language, maybe a bruise here or there, timeliness, attendance. Something isn't quite right. I have shared with my human resource department, hey, I need some help. Can you support? So I've lent them my ear and my heart, but then also follow through with the human resource department and allow them to provide those supports that our organization provides. But in the school, I've shared and I've asked, is it okay if we create a plan for you just to ensure that you are safe? Because again, their safety is key. So we've several instances that I've had some examples. Unfortunately, I've had some examples throughout the years, but a picture of who this person is, the abuser is, having that available for security, ensuring that the person that has a safe parking area, that we take them and walk them, to their car when necessary, not allowing just anyone to come and see them, holding up the calls and, things like that, or just, letting the teacher know you need to take time off. You do have time that you can take it. As Nancy mentioned, there's FMLA that can be taken here in Pennsylvania to address some things like this. So just being aware, creating a plan, but also being understanding, yes, we work in a place where things have to happen, teaching has to happen, counseling has to happen, things like that. But the person is very important. Again, if we don't address and support them, they're not going to be able to give the best version of themselves. So as the supervisors or the bosses of an organization or school, it is our job to not get too friendly, but definitely get to know, if there's some signs out there that our teachers or our staff or something's going on, and it might not be abuse, it might be something else, but creating a plan is what stood out the most for me, especially in this domestic violence in the workplace article. Has some great examples of things that we should be doing to support.
Right. So one of the things that I think all of the articles said was to be very mindful of first of all, the first thing as a boss you do, right? And I remember when I was at the school and I was assistant principal, and I would sit and I made sure that I was very, we're vigilant about they're making sure they're maintaining the dress code, right? So you look at them and you want to make sure they're dressed the right way. You make sure they're on time. These are things we worry about. You make sure that, they're meeting deadlines, things of that nature, but also just being super vigilant in the difference in their moods, in the way they seem. They may come to work and just look bubbly one day, but then come the next day and they look totally different. Just being mindful and vigilant. But one thing that's super important, and I hope everyone watching is hearing, is always remembering that, yes, we're saying to build that bond, build that open communication, but always remember to not try to be a counselor. And when I say that, I don't mean I'm a school counselor, right? And I deal with emotional mental health every day. But what I'm saying by that is Don't try to handle the situation for them. Don't say, this is what I think you should do, because too many times we may feel passionate about this subject and say, I want to help them, so this is what I need them to do. And a lot of times, if we don't give them the correct information, we could hinder them from really getting the help that they need. And in the end, seeing a negative outcome, which is something we absolutely don't want to do. So you want to keep an open ear. You want to be able to have the kind of rapport where they're able to come to you, they're able to have a discussion with you, but also remember that you also need to refer them on to the most appropriate resources that you can, because we don't want to give anyone the wrong information and it end up being something that's backfires for us, because there's also legalities in that as well. Ketsi, you're up, boo. Tell me what it is that you read that you thought was most interesting since you're at Esperanza. Oh, I thought I unmuted you. There you go. Go ahead. I got you now.
I mean, I definitely agree with all of you, right? I think all of those things stood out to me. But more important than anything, what you just said stood out, right? The fact we tend to, as women, we tend to try to be that support person to that other female, right? And we try to say, listen, you should do this or you should do that. Or if I were you, I would do this. And many of the articles said that you need to really be supportive by empowering them to take action themselves. And I found that really interesting because I think that women tend to be very sensitive to this type of situation, right? To domestic violence. They want to be that shoulder that that person has to lean on. And so referring them to someone else to make that phone call, to go to a professional that can really guide them, to me was it was surprising that that's what they recommend in these articles. I took advantage to, once I read the articles, I took advantage and I went to talk to my team because most of them are women. And I asked them, I don't want to know if you guys are in any type of situation, right? I mean, if you want to tell me, that's fine. But, how do you feel about this? Like, well, let's have a conversation about this because, like I mentioned to you all in the green room, I've never had that conversation in any of the places that I've worked in, ever. We've never talked about this is a resource or this is the process. These are the procedures that are in place. And this is what you need to do if you're experiencing it directly, or if you witness or even think that someone is experiencing domestic violence in their personal lives, right? There's never really been a process. And one of the girls said something really interesting to me, and that was, that a lot of women like you, Chris, may make excuses about the situation that they're in, right? But she said that she worked with someone who she saw a shift in their mood when it was time to go home. And so she started to kind of ask questions, right? Like, what's happening? It's the end of the day. Everybody's excited. Why are you so frustrated about going home? And she said she took the initiative to ask her, are you feeling safe at home? And at the beginning, she looked in her eyes and she saw that, yeah, there was something wrong, but she wouldn't admit to it at the moment. And then eventually she came in and she was physically hurt. And they asked her and she said, oh, I'm not being abused because I fight back. Because I hit back, I'm not really in a domestic violence situation where it was actually a fight. And so, the article talks about all of those excuses and how to identify all of those things. And being able to kind of really connect what I read to people in the office kind of freaked me out, actually. I went to HR and said, what is in place, right? What do we have going on here? I need to know now, because if this is presented to me and I work with the majority of my team as women, what do I say and how do I react to those types of things? Because I brought up that conversation, I believe that I've opened the door.
Yeah.
Right? They know that I'm sitting on this panel tonight. They will probably watch and then start to ask questions as well. And so I think that this was some really helpful information that you shared with us, and I'm willing and I'm looking forward to sharing it forward with everybody on my team, men and women.
Yeah. So I want to say a couple of things. I see that our comment box is blowing up. So if you are someone that is new, that is watching, and you're like, why hasn't she put me up yet? I will put up all of the comments at the second half of the show. I want to make sure that we get back there, but I wanted the ladies to have their moment to speak, but we will get back there. That's the first thing. The second thing is, Ketsi, something that you just said, that you were glad that you shared it and that employees are probably watching and different folks. That is the point of why we do what we do, right? So we can open those doors, because these conversations that we have are needed conversations, right? So I was chastised a few months ago for doing what I do. I was told that I am not an expert. I was told that I need therapy and I need mental health. But people don't realize that it's not a matter of being an expert. It's not a matter of your mental health and something's wrong with you. What it is having open conversations. Nobody on this panel is an expert. No one on this panel is someone who says this is exactly what you need to do. But what we're doing is having these conversations, and we're fostering them so that other people can hear them who are in different positions, right? So a congressman watched my show the one day, and I got an email from his office, right? Not because I'm an expert, but because I lived through domestic violence. And he was interested in knowing, since we have these conversations, what can you give me? What input about your abuse can you give me so that we can continue to do different things? We can have different policies and procedures within the government. What are things that we can do? So it's important that we have these conversations. It's super important that people like the three of you women who hold leadership positions have them, because then you can go back to your teams, right? So we don't know what the policies are. You all did what I thought you would do. Go back and find out from HR, what are our policies? Because we're all in different schools, right? So you're in a more authoritative position than we are, Ketsi, right? But you have schools under you, right? So you can make an impact in those schools. We have Sandra and we have Nancy running two schools who can be there and say, listen, these are my employees. This is what they're dealing with. What can we do to help them? This is what's important for us to continue to do that, because we want people to have these conversations that not many people have. Another thing that I want to say, because I'm going to show a video very quickly, is sometimes we feel like, I stated earlier, like we have to do more. We have to be a part of it. So the biggest thing I want to remind folks, if anyone is watching and you work in a situation and you start to feel like someone is going through domestic violence, never try to be the hero. Always try to find the best possible answer. Call 911, get security, whatever the case may be, because when you play hero, sometimes, unfortunately, it ends up in such a terrible disarray. I'm going to show a video. It is not graphic, but it is sensitive in nature because a life was lost. But I think that it's important that we play these videos, that we do the research, because I want people to know that it is happening. It happens all the time. And these are conversations that are fostered because it needs to stop. So let's put this video on. Hopefully you guys are staying to watch. It's 5 minutes long, but it's worth the watch. Here's the video.
And then he said, I'm going now, Poppet. You have a good day. I'll call you later.
The manager of a Starbucks in the West End was stabbed several times and died. And as Tara Nelson reports, the victim was trying to come to the aid of one of his employees.
He went around the counter and moved towards her, producing a large butcher knife, threatening her with the knife. The manager of the Starbucks intervened and was stabbed numerous times. We believe firmly that had he not taken this heroic action, the woman would have been the victim that we would have been dealing with here today.
The intercom went and a voice said, hi, it's the Vancouver Police Department. We need to come up top. And he said, I have some bad news and I think you better sit down. And it was like, what bad news could there be? And so I sat down and the policeman said, Tony was opening the store with his colleague this morning, and her husband came into the store and there was an altercation, and unfortunately Tony was stabbed. And there was this briefest of pauses. And in that pause, I finished his sentence in my head with, and he's in St Paul's Hospital in intensive care, but he's going to be okay. That's how I finished his sentence. And then he said, and unfortunately he died. And it was, And I remember one of the first things I said was he was a coffee shop manager. Who would want to kill a coffee shop manager?
Mirashin Fatemi is charged with second-degree murder in the killing of Tony McNaughton. He remains in custody and will appear in court again on March the 27th.
When someone gets up to go to work and doesn't come back, and you have no warning, it would have been one thing if he had been hit by a truck. That would have been horrific enough. But the fact that someone made a choice, someone took an 8-inch butcher's knife into a Starbucks coffee shop with the intent of killing someone, it takes away all your sense of safety. It's becoming apparent now that I still don't feel safe in the world. I still don't, my assumptive reality of what I believed was truth and how the world was changed on that moment. The world wasn't and isn't a safe place. Innocent people, and we know this, we see it in the newspapers every day, that innocent people become victims.
Today, the jury began hearing evidence against the alleged killer, Mirashem Satemi. Prosecutors say they'll present surveillance video and a letter found in Satemi's apartment. In the letter, the accused talks about a mission from God. Family and friends of McNaughton say they are relieved the trial has begun.
The hard part is because there was a trial, because the man was arrested, we never found out what happened until the trial. So for, 16 months, you're wondering, how did he die? How long was he laying on that floor, bleeding to death? Was he suffering? What was going through his mind? Had he been stabbed and it was a slow death, or was it sudden? And did he suffer? And you also think, if I could have convinced him to stay home because he had a migraine, he would still be alive. Tony was an ordinary man who did an extraordinary thing. And one of the things we've always said is that, and it's a quote that is on the Starbucks plaque, is that what he did was who he was. In Buddhism, we...
So when I saw that video earlier today, I was kind of just taken back. And I'm telling you, every time I do this show and every time I deal with different instances, it always takes me back, right? So it's super therapeutic, like I always say, for me, because I get to relive it, but see it in a different perspective. Back then, I was very immature. I was super young. I was manipulated a great deal. So my actions back then would have been entirely different than what my actions are now as a 40-year-old woman. And I look back on those times and I think back to when my employers finally did find out what happened. And because I had rapport and I had relationships with them, I look at that video today and I remember how security was just like, oh, I'll go outside. Like, I'll hit them with a bat or I'll do whatever. And I think to myself, anyone could have been in danger had they tried to save me. And, some people are like, oh, you're extra and that's too much. It's not, because these situations happen all the time. People try to intervene, whether it's school or home or anywhere. People try to intervene and someone else ends up being hurt. So if there's anything you take away from this conversation tonight, folks, please, 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 if you are in any sort of, you don't even have to be in an authority position. If you're just a coworker, another employee in the building, and you feel like someone you are working with is dealing with domestic violence and it ends up at the workplace, which sometimes unfortunately happens, call 911. Do not play, a hero. I know everyone would love to protect the people that they care for, but please never play hero. It is 34 minutes in, reminding folks, as we always do at this time, if you are dealing with someone who is living with domestic violence, someone you love, a coworker, someone you know, reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can reach us online at loveshouldnothurt.com and all of our social media platforms. So I want to look at some of the comments that we have up here since we're halfway in, and we have quite a few comments here. I'm going to see the bigger ones so we can go in here. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this person. Joe Garcia is joining us tonight. Hello, Mr. Garcia. He says, I've dealt with employees who are ready to deal with their domestic violence and some who suffer from Stockholm syndrome and refuse to leave. Tough and common issues. Absolutely. I saw you smile, Sandra. I know you know who he is. What do you feel about that comment?
Being able to deal with employees who are ready to deal with this domestic violence, that's big. I honestly can say, I'm not an expert. Am I ready? I'm sometimes I become so emotionally involved with my staff. Like even watching that video, oh my God, I remember one case in particular many, many years ago where one of the staff trusted us and shared with us, and I remember this person waiting across the street and my nerves were so bad. Because, I'm like, man, you can come to the building and, and scare, make this person feel threatened. I can only imagine what happens at home, so I'm never ready. No one is ever ready for this. And, as you're building relationships with your staff, paying close attention is important, right? But it's scary. It's scary not only for the person, but also for everyone else. Just like this video, the boss, the children, the other coworkers, the family members, the people that can be stalked. There's so many. It impacts so many. Can emotionally, definitely hits the heart in all kinds of areas. So it's nothing that I know that I can be ready, personally.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's scary. So shout out to Aspira. We have another Aspira person here. We have Helen Ortiz. Look at this comment. She says, I was dealing with domestic violence when I started working at Aspira, but thank goodness they got me help at the time that I really needed. I thank them for their understanding and support. I know that God put this job in my life at a time that I needed so much emotional help. Thanks, Aspira. Thanks to the wonderful women and people I worked with, I got the help I needed. That is awesome to see. You don't always get that, right? Because you have some people in some situations who, they say doctors and nurses have the worst bedside manner, right? Because they deal with it so much. And unfortunately, police officers are sometimes in that same kind of mindset. I remember when I was being abused and going to, I won't say which district, but going to the district at the time. And because I didn't physically have a black eye, the officer, the gentleman was just kind of like, he didn't really care. It was like, well, did this really happen? Or, well, what did you say to him? It kind of felt like he was just not totally taking it seriously. So instances of knowing that you're going through it in any setting and knowing that there's people there who are supportive and are willing to help is tremendous for anyone. Carmen Gonzalez, who is Doctora Gonzalez's sister, says, so true. Our advice may not be for them at that time. Joe Garcia left a lot of messages here, Joe. We putting them all up for you. He said, for those victims not ready to leave their situation, they should start socking away some money secretly and preparing a getaway bag just in case they decide or have to leave in a moment's instance. Absolutely. That's something that we always tell a lot of our victims who give us calls and say, I can't leave today. He's working, but he's coming home soon. And we always say, begin to make your getaway bag. It doesn't have to be big, because if we need to provide you with what you need, we will do so. But find the most important things. If you have a secret compartment in your car, start stashing them in there, a pair of shoes, a toothbrush, whatever it is you think is important to you so that you're prepared and you're ready. I have a question for you, Ketsi. I want to make sure that we keep the conversation open with all of you. Ketsi, if you felt as though someone within your organization was dealing with domestic violence, what do you think? Say I'm in your organization. I'm putting you on the spot, but that's okay. That's what we do. So say I worked at Esperanza still. I did a few years ago. And I came to you and you thought I was dealing with domestic violence. How do you think you would approach me if I wasn't outright telling you? And there's no right or wrong answer, but I want to lead up to our next video.
I mean, I think I would refer back to the conversation that I had with my team earlier, right? I think that I would just ask you, right? I don't know. I'm just that kind of person. I'm an upfront type of person, right? I'm not going to beat around the bush. And one of the questions I would ask you from the door is, are you feeling safe? Are you in a situation where you're unsafe? And if you say yes to me, then I'm going to do my best to guide you to those individuals like the HR department that are better prepared to deal with your situation than I am, while making sure that you understand that I'm here to provide support. Like I mentioned to you earlier, I think that this conversation is important because many people don't know what their organization's policies are. And so we can be in that situation. Like I said to you earlier, I can be in that situation tomorrow. I work with women. And so I opened up the door. I don't think that just because we're a faith-based organization, we're exempt to those types of situations.
Right.
And so there is a very strong possibility that in the near future, someone may come and knock on the door to say, Ketsi, I'm experiencing this. What do I do? Thankfully enough, because of this conversation, I'm able to direct them to the appropriate people. And so that's definitely what I would do, while making sure that I provide them the necessary emotional support that they need.
Right. All right. So I have one more video for you guys. It is an example of how an employer should present themselves as opposed to how they shouldn't present themselves.
Alex, I'm worried about you. You're a great worker, but lately you seem distracted.
Is it okay to talk about my personal problems at work?
If you tell me what's wrong, maybe I can help.
I didn't want to bring it up at work, but my partner is hurting me at home.
That's so hard to believe.
Does my boss think I'm lying?
How do you put up with this?
Does he think it's my fault?
You should leave your partner.
If only it were that easy.
Alex, I'm worried about you. You know, you're a great worker, but lately you seem distracted. If you tell me what's wrong, maybe I can help.
I didn't want to bring it up at work, but my partner is hurting me at home.
Oh, no. I'm sorry to hear that. Would you like to talk about it?
Is there any point in talking about this at work?
You know, we have policies that can help keep you safe at work.
It would be such a relief to feel safe while I'm here.
Look, here's a list of resources for people dealing with domestic violence. I'm here to listen anytime, okay? You're not alone.
Maybe there is hope.
I like that one. Excuse me, my voice went away. I like that one. It kind of gives us a different perspective as to what we should and should not say to folks when they're dealing with it. Absolutely. I always tell folks to remember never to tell someone, even with families. I have mothers that call me and they say, I think my daughter is dealing with domestic violence. I don't know if her boyfriend is abusing her or not, but I think he is. I tell her all the time he's not worth it. And I tell her she needs to leave. And I always tell them, I understand your pain. I understand where that's coming from. I know it's coming from love, but try your best not to focus it on the abuser. Do not say he's a terrible person. Do not say you better leave him. You're smarter than that. You cannot continue to push the abuser, because in that moment they're at their most fragile. And with you being so aggressive about your feelings and your thoughts, they kind of feel like she did in the video. Does he think I'm lying? Does he understand? It's the same way in personal relationships. Nancy, I unmuted you because I had a question for you. So you work within a school. You have different women who work under you, even men, because as we always stated, domestic violence is not just women. It's a woman and man thing as well. What kind of policies going forward, right? Because we all said that this is something that brought up the conversation that may help us continue on. What policies or procedures, or even just not things that maybe that we don't do entire Speed Out Wide, because maybe what's good for you at Cyber is different for Sandra, at Pantoja, and is different for me at Alani, and different from Ketsi at Esperanza. What policies do you think personally within your office you would look to make, more accustomed for your employees to feel more at home if you think they were dealing with domestic violence? That's probably a long-winded question, but I think you get what I mean.
Yes. Well, first and foremost, we actually, as a school district, need to have domestic violence policy in our district. We have other types of policies. We have a thick manual. It's called the compact policies. But I do not recall reading about domestic violence in that. And after this segment, I'm actually going to pull the policy to look through it and double check again. And I'm just going to have these conversations with our HR department that we need to look at the research and put a policy together. Of course, our lawyers will have to do the language and then get it board approved. But it's something very important because it does happen. We just don't talk about it. And it's so important to talk about it and get help for our employees, because if they're going through all this at home, then they're going to come to work. They're not going to be focused because they're going to be thinking about the issues that happened last night or this morning and covering up the physical evidence, trying to be there for the students, but they're not focused because they're emotional. So I think that is our duty, our due diligence, to ensure that our employees know that there is a policy and that we are there to support them, not to judge them, not to be their hero, but to give them the resources that they need to get out of that situation, whatever way possible.
Right, absolutely. So Jeanette Diaz is on here too. Hello from Congreso. And she's given us some good information. I want to put this up because that's something I thought of earlier. If they are seeking help, help them create a safety plan and connect them to local DV agencies. Also, HR employee assistance programs are also a great resource. Absolutely. What I said I was thinking of and I saw was the safety plan. I had an amazing boss when I was at Fair Hill, and then it changed to the One Bright Ray. So many different names, but I was there for 7 years. And my boss was phenomenal. She knew personally what was going on with me because we kind of shared a suite, so she could hear the conversations. They would harass me while I was at work and call and threaten me. So she herself was like, we need to figure out what we need to do to keep you safe. So posting his picture downstairs, making sure security knew exactly what he looked like when he was outside for dismissal, kind of just looking around to make sure that this person was not outside. She made a safety plan for me to go out a back door so that I'm not directly in the place they would expect me to come out of. And different things, same thing. She would tell me, Chris, make a bag, bring it to work, leave it here. If you have to not go home, then your bag is here. So I think that that's something that we as well can do with our employees. Even, we have PDs, we have professional developments all the time. And, last year, because I run this nonprofit, one of our mental health professionals came to me and said, would you like to do a PD with all of our mental health, groups so that they can kind of get an idea of what you do and we can work together? And I was able to do that. And that's something that we'll do again this year as one of our PDs, but letting them know the different steps that they could take. Also, we did it so they knew what to do and how they could deal with our students if they're dealing with domestic violence. But again, as employees, we deal with them. We're adults and we go to work every day. And even though home is not a safe place, work can absolutely be one. You're there mostly 8 hours a day. Sometimes I'm sure for you guys longer than 8 hours a day. Katsy's still there. So, our days are long and our breaks are short, but we want to be able to know that we're safe wherever it is that we go. So I think that's an amazing suggestion, Jeanette, of having as well, helping them create a safety plan, especially when they come to work. If they feel not safe anywhere else, at least they know that when they come to work, they are. She also said, in addition to the National Domestic Violence Hotline number, you can also reach out to the Philadelphia Domestic Violence Hotline number. Anyone that's writing, please write that down, 1-866-723-3014. I'm going to leave that on the screen for a little bit so that anybody that's watching can jot that number down as well, so that you can be supported here in Philadelphia. We have another comment. I'm not going to put it up because I want that number to stay up, but it is from Carmen again. She says, when the victim is ready to leave, they will. Trying to force a victim to leave will cause more harm. Guilt, shame, and fear will follow them. Just being there for them speaks volumes. Even if you just sit there quietly with them, support goes a long way. Absolutely. My boss was phenomenal during that time. She would She would guide me. She would tell me what to do. She would tell me what resources to go after. She would tell me anything. And I just felt at ease whenever I was at work because I knew that if I had a bad day or if they were harassing me or if they were calling, she would be there to be my support system. Now, I'm on here with bosses, right? And it's a scary instance because during that time, a lot of the things that a lot of us as victims think of are finances, right? What am I going to do if I leave him? What am I going to do financially to take care of my kids? It was scary for me to even say anything or do anything around that time because I didn't know whether or not I'd be able to keep my job. You know, when they say, oh, domestic violence is just something personal, it's not. It can go with you wherever you are. I was at work and they began to harass me and call my job every day. And my boss liked me, but he came into my office and he said, listen, you're a great asset. You've been here 7 years, but if they continue to call and they continue to harass, this may be a problem. You know, we may have to let you go because this isn't every day because the person thought the receptionist was my main number. So they would call and they would curse her out every day. They would threaten her. Now she's scared. So now I have other people in the building who are being affected by this. So, you know, in those instances, what do? You know, how do you deal with it at that time? So the biggest thing that I love from the three of you is that all of you are now thinking future sense of what can we do to protect our employees? What can we do so that this is a conversation that we had? So we're at the 50 mark. I normally do this at 55, but we have 3 women on the screen. I am giving you each a moment of your own shine, meaning that this is your time to just speak about whatever you think is beneficial to those who are listening. You can speak about tonight's topic. What about it made you feel, you know, the abundance to want to be here and say, hey, let's do this, or just anything that's, you know, in your mind that you kind of just want to get out. For those who are listening, this is the platform and this is why we do this, so people can hear us. So I'm going to leave the screen and Nancy's going to leave the screen, and so is Sandra. Ketsi, I'm going to let you go first, but we will all be back. Oops.
I mean, I think that what I would hope that all of you take away from this show is that communication is key, and seeking the resources that you absolutely need in order for you to remain safe are a priority and should be a priority. As you heard on this show several times, create a plan that works for you. Create a plan where you are the priority. Take advantage of the resources that are made available to you. And don't be afraid to speak up. You should always know that there's always someone around that will be your support system. To me, I think that this show has made me realize the fact that in many workplaces, especially in our Latino community, this is not something that is discussed often enough, not just providing resources to the victim, but to those who are around them to be able to identify that that person is suffering and that needs support. And so I think that this show has showed me that conversations need to happen in the workplace, not just around the victim, but around those who need to be supportive of them. So I hope that was the takeaway today. And I look forward to continuing conversations like this in my own circles to be able to be as supportive as possible.
Thank you so much, Ketsi. I'm going to send you to the back. I'm going to bring Sandra out, but don't go anywhere because we're going to come back and say goodbye.
Thank you for making sure that conversations like this happen. They're super important. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to bring you back, okay? I'm going to bring Sandra on first. Doctora, it is your momento to shine. You always shine, girl. But it's your moment now. Voy para atrás.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina, for this opportunity. For all of the bosses out there, supervisors, directors, coordinators, people that that work with others and are responsible for others. Let's not forget that creating a safe place for our employees is important. Ensuring that our staff is healthy, that is a thriving community, just as the Harbor House has mentioned in their article. Hopefully everyone gets a chance to read it. Please ensure that your staff is always healthy, that they're safe, and that they know that their family is always first. If our staff cannot give the best version of themselves, they're not going to do and produce what we want them to produce. It's key, it's important that they know that, we are there to support them. We are there to provide them, what's needed in order for them to give the best version of themselves. A listening ear and a listening heart is definitely needed. And staff, I hope that you do find someone in your organization, and maybe it's not your supervisor, maybe it's not your boss, maybe it's not the coordinator or the person that's responsible that writes your paycheck or signs your paycheck, but find someone that can provide you the supports, and definitely create a plan of action for yourself, for at home, for your family, and share if and when you're ready. Share and seek out support. For those that work for an organization or a school, please look out for ways that you can support your staff and your personnel. One of the first things that I want to do is that I want to have conversations with my leadership team. What are those signs that we should be looking for? Also, I want to start posting things in the lounge. And even though if we don't have something set in place as a policy yet, I can still send out information out to my staff. So I'm pleading everyone to please do the same thing. Make your staff aware. At least let them know that there's help out there in the community. Thank you so much, Christina, for making me think about these things. We think about the math and the science and the social studies and what's the best technology out there, but our staff's well-being is just as important. So thank you.
Thank you, Fierra. I'm going to send you to the back, pero quédate ahí, tranquilita. I'll be back for you. Nancy, es su turno, señorita. I'm going to go to the back.
This program and for the conversations, the very important conversations that we're having. First and foremost, awareness is key, and also resources, how to get those resources. And I just want to tell everyone that abuse is not just the physical, it's also the psychological abuse, the controlling, the sexual abuse, also economic control of your finances. Abuse is a broad spectrum, but the main important thing is to open up, find someone that you can trust and talk about it. And to the listener, don't judge, be compassionate, and offer support and resources. As we saw in the video and in the conversations we had with the panel, we cannot be the heroes, but we can be the person who listened with an open heart and open mind, that did not judge and show support. So that way that individual that's being abused can get the help that they need. And for the abuser, they also need help. It's a mental health issue that's going on with them. It can be that because they were abused as children. It's also individuals that are narcissists, that they become abusers. So know those signs and get help for that individual as well. And once again, know that we're here to support you. I'm a phone call away. I'm open to support you. You can reach me through Facebook, through work, my email, etc., because I want to be able to help those individuals that are afraid to talk about it. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It has happened to the majority of women that I know, and it doesn't matter your status, your social economic status, your class. It's a issue, it's a concern, and domestic violence is not just the problem of the person experiencing it. It becomes all of our problem, and we're here to support and to help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Nancy. Like I told the other two beautiful ladies, te voy a mandar para atrás ahora. I'm going to give my final pensamiento, and I'm going to do some announcements, and then I'll bring everybody back so we can say goodbye together. Thank you. Well, people, it's been another what's the word that I used the other day? Riveting experience with some amazing Latina women. And I have to continue to say that, right? Because people are probably like, all right, ja, we get it. We get it. But we have to say that because you know what? I don't think that our Latina women get enough props or flores for all of the amazing work that they do, especially not the three ladies that I have on the screen, let me tell you, because you can't play with these women. They're big business. You might see them out there and you may not know much about them, but if you didn't get that from watching today, they are amazing women, and I was blessed to have them on the screen. I'm going to put this comment up because it is the truth. All three of you ladies are amazing. Everyone should have leaders like you three. Absolutely. I hope that you all enjoyed our conversation and continue to do so every single week. We love to bring you guys so much information. We love to have these conversations because they should be had. If you are dealing with someone within your community, in your organization, your employee, someone that you know who is facing domestic violence, make sure that you know the resources within your organization like these ladies did. They went to HR. They tried to figure out a plan. If you are the employee and you have no idea, go to your HR. Find out what parameters of help they have so that you can get the supports that you need. Because if you do not feel safe at home, you want to feel safe when you go to work. Some information and announcements for the coming weeks. So I'm going to continue to push because listen, I know how great it's going to be. Our Love Gala is on October 23rd, 2021. We are having it at the Concilio Ballroom. Get your tickets if you have not, because last year, as I sat getting my hair done, people were begging me to get tickets. No joke. I'm serious. They really were. You don't want to do that this year. You want to make sure that you are there and that you have a good time with us. You can go to the Concilio website to get your tickets. We are going to have some awesome performances. We are giving out awards to survivors within the community because this year's theme is Survivor Appreciation. We are going to have a phenomenal speaker who is coming here from Florida. He reached out to me because he is touched by what we're doing, and he is going to close out our program. So it is going to be a phenomenal event. It is formal, so you can put your best on and look good because we're going to have lots of great food. We're going to have some great goodie bags, and we're going to have a red carpet, Dios mío, so we can see how beautiful you look and take pictures. I love pictures. Sorry, I'm biased. So come and join us. And the last thing, next week, be with us because you have seen Carmen, you have seen Dodora Gonzalez, but look, next week, we're going to have their sister on the screen, Abigail. She is going to join us next week. We are going to talk about surviving child sexual abuse. Go to Amazon, people, and look for her book. We will be discussing her book next week, and we will talk about another difficult conversation, but it is with another one of these beautiful women. Sandra's been here. Carmen has been here. Now we're going to show you Abigail, who is their sister, who will show you that their mom should be super duper proud because she got some flaming women in her breed of children. Like, they're all amazing. I know there's another sister that does hair, that throws hands. You girls are killing it. So be here next week at 7 p.m. so that you can see what she has done with her phenomenal book. Let's bring these ladies back so we can say goodbye together. Thank you, Naomi. You are welcome. I see your comments. Everyone that's here, just thank you for being here, giving us the shout outs. Mujeres, fierras, I love you. Thank you all so much for being here and accepting to be here tonight. I hope you have fun because I have fun.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. And listen, you see everybody on the screen, whether they want to or not, they're going to be at the gala too. So come see them in their dresses. See you guys next week at 7 p.m. Join us for that very needed conversation of child sexual abuse. I'll see you guys. Have a good evening. Bye.